Hey, I'm Sean Callagy of Callagy Law. Something our clients ask us a ton is, what are some things I need to worry about or think about if I'm going to get divorced? And it really breaks into three categories. And we talk about these a lot, and these are coaching principles. I happen to also be a certified coach. And those three principles really are self-mastery, influence mastery, and process mastery. Let's talk about self-mastery first. If you're going to be going through a divorce process, one of the most difficult bridges to cross, understanding gaps to close, is this: that you're now in an adversarial process with somebody that at some point in time you told you loved and they told that they loved you. And that's a wildly difficult and emotional space. And one of the most upfront issues from the beginning is to understand this. Perhaps they're going to be authentic and honest, and you're going to be authentic and honest, and you're both going to get to a very reasonable resolution. And we've seen tons of cases be resolved fairly and reasonably. But emotionally, you have to prepare yourself right from step one to think, well, maybe I can't trust this person, and maybe this person is taping me. Maybe this person is all of a sudden acting very differently towards you because they're trying to entrap you and manipulate the reality of the situation. And for you to understand this, that's a self-mastery concept. In influence mastery, snapshots are difficult. If I were to film the 5 or 6 worst things you've ever done or said in your entire life, and I was going to have that be the presentation to a judge in your family law case of who you are, right? I had those moments when you were 17, 25, 32, whatever those moments were, the moments you're least proud of, most embarrassed about, most upset about and frustrated, where you were, said and did things that you just, know you shouldn't have or wish you didn't, or would present you as super angry, super aggressive, a liar, right? We all have moments like that in our life. Every single person, no matter how good a person you are. So from an influence mastery perspective, it is the gathering of those snippets of information and how they're used by the other side, and quite frankly by your side, if there's an escalation, that becomes wildly important. Right? If you think about reality shows, one of the great complaints people have on having been on, like, let's say Survivor in the early seasons, we all know that show, or any reality show, is that there's a human distortion component by even what moments we select. So let's say you film somebody 24 hours a day. If you pick the 4 moments that are the most angry every day, and for somebody else you pick the 4 moments that are the happiest, the kindest, the most giving and generous, you can create wildly distorted viewpoints and proof of who these people are. So when you're going through a process of divorce, these are enormously important things to think about. And very sadly, a lot of times people use domestic violence statutes, which are super important to protect people from domestic violence, but there are folks that also use them unfairly. And then some people are committing domestic violence and then they pretend that they're not. And they're capturing other moments in different ways. So psychologically and emotionally, no matter how contentious or not in a self-mastery perspective you think your divorce is going to be, you have to set yourself up to be protecting yourself from day one and be thinking about, how do I get to the most reasonable outcome and fair outcome I possibly can right from day one, which is diametrically opposed to what you're functioning in any healthy marriage. And that break has to happen, and even if it's a temporary one, it's a huge emotional part of acceptance that really needs to go on. Same thing in influence mastery. How are we making sure that I'm protected, I'm going to be accurately portrayed? And if you're dealing with somebody who's a liar, a cheat, a thief, they're doing things with the children, they're using them unfairly, how do I defend, protect my children, protect myself from that situation in an influence mastery perspective? And finally, what does that process look like? Well, that process really begins from the very next interaction you have with them, which really should be informed by a highly competent attorney who understands the principles that I'm talking about right now. And we always talk about attorney selection comes down to caring, urgency, and aggression around the skill sets necessary to achieve a just and fair outcome rapidly. So from a process mastery perspective, every step, every interaction you have with your spouse at this point, every letter that's written, everything that happens in the complaint, how the complaint is filed, everything that happens in written discovery, everything that happens in depositions, everything along the way is critically important. And if it's done at the most masterful levels, hopefully, if you're dealing with a reasonable person on the other side, it is all done without any litigation. It's done in a few different sessions of reasonable conversation gets done. But if it's not, at least you're protected and prepared because you've thought about, from an emotional context, how to get ready to protect yourself, influence this case to maximum, and you've done it every step of the way in the process. I'm Sean Callagy, we're Callagy Law. We have certified matrimonial attorneys that work here at Callagy Law that have been dealing with these issues for decades. Please give us a call right now at 201-261-1700. Please let us help you, show you how to navigate these processes. And by the way, follow us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And if you like this content, please like it, share it, pass it along to other people. We're trying to fundamentally change the way people feel about lawyers one client at a time and demystify the legal process. I'm Sean Callagy. Have an awesome day.